Welcome to another podcast by Guns and Yellow Ribbons. This is your Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Enjoy the show.
Hello, good evening, welcome. It's Friday night, it's Guns and Yellow Ribbons. Trevor, it's me and you at the minute. I think Alex is doing something in Copenhagen. Dale's stuck on a train, and Dan's got the ump because he's got the ump.
Because we didn't let him talk to Smudger.
Yeah.
I reckon you should sack him, Fergus, sack him.
Well, I have been chatting to him on Twitter because he won't take my texts. He won't do anything else. But because it's public, he's just trying to humiliate me and everything else. But you know what? I think there is one little thing that just might make him come back and talk to us. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think if he got the offer of a ticket for Tottenham, I think he'd be out of control, Ferg, to be honest. I think he would be laughing.
What do you reckon he would do? He would do some really, really, really rude things.
He would do some very random things. Random things.
Random. Yeah, that's a better word than what I'm saying. Well, I'll tell you what. How'd you get on? Have you done any rude stuff?
Well,
Random.
Firstly, Trevor, could you tell Fergus that I'm not talking to him, please? Because I'm not looking up there.
Daniel, my brother, if you think I'm sitting here all night, being a go-between between you and Fergus, you've got another thing coming, son.
The next thing I was going to say, Trev, was could you please go and tell Fergus, potato, to be sure.
Yes, Fergus, to be sure.
Listen, I think you're buying lots of drinks. You're coming to the Northern... All three of us are going to the Northern Derby at the weekend.
Mate, I am like a dog with two dicks. I can't explain. Honestly, I am over the... I've been jumping around my living room like a child, so God knows what the people living near to me have thought was going on in this house, but I haven't stopped smiling, so can't wait.
And people, please do not adjust your earphones, your tablets, whatever you listen to. He's bought a microphone. It's even got lights in it, but they're blue, so he's had to turn the lights off. They were very, very blue and white.
I think I can make them red as well. Shall I turn it red?
It will be better than the blue and white ones you had on earlier. Listen, we're gonna preview the Northern Derby in a little while, but we're also going to look at the other games. So we've got Southampton versus Man United, Brighton versus Ipswich, Palace versus Leicester, Fulham versus West Ham, Liverpool Forest, City Brentford, Villa Everton, Bournemouth Chelsea, and Wolverhampton versus Newcastle. But we're really not really interested in any of those games because it's Northern Derby weekend.
Fergus. I've got a ticket.
Oh, this is going to be uncontrollable. He might be on mute. Trevor, before we go any further, what I do want to talk about is this. The prediction league.
Why?
You know, this fixed league.
Why do we need to talk about this?
Well, it's, Ginger's...
Yeah, well, I can't because I'm at the bottom, aren't I? What's going on? How can I
ruin it? Come on then, Dan, talk us through it.
To be honest with you, you've got no excuses now because you've all been moaning for the last 3 weeks. We've got rid of all of your deductions now, so this is a very true. Oh, hello everyone! I'm on my big screen. This is a very true table now. So if you're at the bottom, Trevor, that means your predictions are awful.
Right, let's have a look. So we're looking at after game week 3. It was Arsenal, Brighton, which we know when we talked about the 1-1. Forest, Wolves 1-1. We had Leicester, Villa, which was 2-1 to Villa. Draw between Ipswich and Fulham. Everton, Bournemouth. Wow, what a game. 2-3. Brentford against Southampton. They won 3-1. Man City expected to win 3-1 at... West Ham, Tottenham beat that lot down the lane, 2-1. It was a draw.
Hang on,
Chelsea.
Tottenham lost, mate.
Sorry, Tottenham lost. Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant.
Don't be giving them points. That's a deduction again, I reckon.
Fergus.
And then
Fergus,
Fergus,
I'm not having it. there's balls ups, right? I don't mind you making the balls up, but you do not go giving that lot up the road a win when they didn't win. I am not happy. You sort your life out. Otherwise, I'm coming down there now and you won't be able to walk to the North London derby.
Apologies. Right, let's look at the next slide. We want to get on points awarded. Dan, here we go.
Well, as I said, everyone has now been reversed, so you've got no reason to moan at me again. And to be honest, after what you did to me on Monday, Fergus, you're lucky you've not been hit with a ban and a relegation, mate. But we'll move on because of Spurs. So ceasefire from here on in. But this is now the final position. But Trev, you are last, mate. You've got to do a little bit better. I'm not going to lie.
I can't work it out because I was on 18 points last week and I've got 2 correct scores, exact scores, and I've only gone to 19 points. You need to sort your maths out, Daniel.
He's an accountant. He's an accountant.
Well, I know, but there's plenty of dodgy ones of them about Fergus.
So for people on audio,
I might have to do a review, but at the minute I'll put it down to tax, Trevor. So
okay.
We'll have a look.
Dale's on 28, Alex is on 27, Dan's on 23, I'm on 20, and Trevor's on 19.
I'm not having it. How can I have 2 correct scores and some wins and only get 1 point? Oh, that I'll tell you what. Are you working for the PGMOL or something, Dan? Are you? Because you're about as bent as they are, mate. That's wrong. All wrong.
Listen, you've got your opportunity now to predict some scores. Trevor, we're going to come to you first of all on Southampton versus Man United. Man United have come from behind to beat Southampton in 10 different Premier League games. Only Liverpool have had more comeback wins against a single opponent in their history, which was 11 against Newcastle. What's your thoughts on this game then, Trev?
I think that form from recent years says that Man United are going to win at Southampton. But I also think that Man United, they're up and down. And I don't think they're going to be good enough to win the game at Southampton. I genuinely don't. I think Southampton are going to be on. They got beat last week, I know, but they're at home this week. They've got their new goalkeeper in goal. We all know he's a fine player. And I just think that Southampton are going to. I don't think Southampton are going to win. I think we're going to see a draw, I think, at Southampton. We're going to see Ramsdale have a blinder. Man United get lucky, and it's going to be a 1-1 draw, I think, at Southampton on Saturday.
1-1 draw. Dan, they're winless in 14 Premier League games against Manchester United.
Stop. What made me say 1-1 draw? It's not a 1-1 draw. Southampton are going to win 2-1. I do apologise, people. That's the first and last mistake I'll make tonight.
Oh, no.
Can you see why Trevor's not got many points?
The Ramsdale effect. Yeah. I'm going to count the points this week. I'm going to put it on my paper now. So I was at 19 at the start of this week, right? Circle. I'll be watching you, Danny boy.
So Southampton are winless in 14 league games at Manchester United, against Manchester United, drawing 8 and losing 6. The last away win was in January, since an away win in January 2016. Aaron Ramsdale is their keeper. And his last clean sheet against Manchester United was at Bournemouth in 2019. What's your thoughts on this game then?
I think on paper, you look at it and say, look, Man United's, much, much better team on paper than Southampton. But Southampton's not actually had a bad start. I think I saw a stat the other day. Their possession percentage is pretty high, especially for a team that's just come up against a team in United that really have got a bit lucky at times and dug out some wins. So I do think I agree with a little bit with Trevor that it's going to be a closer game than everyone thinks. United just have something in the locker where they pull it out and they nick a goal or two every now and again. So I just can't see for that reason Southampton getting something from this game. I think the last 4 games they've played, they've had 3 draws and a win for United by 1 goal. So they've always been pretty close. I think Southampton are actually a pretty decent team, but like most teams that come up, they struggle to put the ball in the net. And I think that will be the case. So I've gone with 3-1 Man United.
3-1 Man United, okay. We'll publish next week the scores from Dale and from Alex as well. Next game we're looking at is the 3:00 kickoff. It's Brighton versus Ipswich. It's the first league meeting between Brighton and Ipswich. It's a 1-1 draw in February 2017, and it's the first top flight since a 2-0 win for Ipswich in the old Division 1 in January 1983. Dan, talk to me about this one. Oh, on the last game, by the way, I went for a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one, right, where I think Brighton are going to be a real surprise package this year. I think their new manager fits the sort of bill of what they've had previously in last couple of years with different managers. They've got good young players that are coming through. Brighton's always been a team that progresses the ball really, really well out from the back. And their problem has always been putting the ball in the net. But if they can start scoring more goals, which they have done recently, I really think they can push on for a European place. And then you've got another team in Ipswich where I just can't see that they'll do anything this year. I just don't think they've got enough quality. And I think they're spending, although they've spent a bit of money, I don't think it's been the highest quality additions really for what they need to stay up. And they've bought a lot of young up-and-coming players with good potential, or players that have been good in the Championship. But in terms of real Prem-proven players, I think they'll struggle. So I expect Brighton will probably walk all over Ipswich, if I'm honest. I think they'll dominate the game from start to finish. And I've gone for another 3-1 win for Brighton.
Trev, Brighton have lost just one of the last 13 Premier League home games against promoted sides, winning 5, drawing 7, and going down 1-0 to Fulham last year in February 2023. And Fulham were a force last season, as we know. What's your thoughts on this game?
I'm with Dan all the way. I think Brighton are a damn fine side this season, and I think they're going to surprise a few people and be right up there or thereabouts looking at a European place at the end of the season. They've come on really well. They've got a new manager, haven't they? And they've brought in some new players, and they're just going to fly. They just look like they want to win games. They look like when they played at our place, didn't they? You know, they found a way to battle us. You know, we weren't happy about it at the end of the day, the Arsenal, but Brighton played how they thought they were going to get a point out of the game, and they did. And I think that they're going to be far too good for Ipswich. I've got a bit of I don't mind Ipswich, but they're not going to be good enough this season, are they? They're going to struggle, I think, and they're going to be down in the relegation zone at the end of the season. So I can't see anything other than a Brighton win this season. I agree with Dan's sentiments exactly, and I've even gone for the same result. I've gone for a 3-1 to Brighton.
I've got 2-0 to Brighton. I can't see Ipswich scoring. I know we saw them score against City, and that was more an Edison cock-up more than anything else. But, you know, I think they'll try with some valour, but, you know, enjoy your Premier League, take the money, go down, come back up again and build. Really good.
They feel like another Luton to me. Like, they'll get periods throughout the year where they get a big crowd in at home, evening game, you know, get the crowd behind them and they'll get some results. But I just don't see them doing enough to stay up. I think most teams that have come up are going to struggle, really. The Premier League, the gap between the Prem and the Championship is just getting bigger and bigger with the money that the teams have got to spend.
Yeah, using Luton as an example, they've gone down, they're going to spend the money, they had a good squad that's good enough for the Championship and good enough for the bottom of the Premier League. They'll build upon that, and hopefully that's what Ipswich will do. Remember, they're European champions. They've played European football, not European champions. Were they European champions, Trev? No, they weren't, but they did play in Europe. Listen, Nick on YouTube has put his predictions in. If, as we're going along these games, you want to put your predictions in, please feel free to put them in. We're looking at Palace versus Leicester City. Since drawing consecutive games at home in September and October last season, Crystal Palace have last 16 games in Selhurst Park. They have seen 59 goals scored. They've scored 30 for themselves, have conceded 25, 3.7 goals per game. Dan, it's been a goal fest down at Selhurst Park. What's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a bit of a broken record with these teams that have come up, but I feel the same with Leicester. I think Trev's a bit more of a fan of their squad than I am, but I don't think they've got a good squad, Leicester. I think the Prem-proven players feel a bit tired for what they need when they come up, and then they're coming up against a side in Palace that probably haven't fully clicked yet, and they probably haven't set the world alight. But I actually think they've got a really, really good squad and probably going to have a really good season. I mean, they've got, I think, Daichi Kamada that came in from, I think it was Frankfurt he came in from, but brilliant player. Him with Eze in behind Mateta. I think Mateta looks like a fantastic striker, holds the ball up, runs in behind. He's maybe a little bit of a Lukaku about him, where he's not great with the ball at his feet, but his all-round player as a striker is fantastic. And when you've got two fullbacks bombing forward like they have with Tyrick Mitchell and Munoz each side, I mean, that they're going to have a good season. It's just whether they can settle with the disruptions they've had at the back. Obviously, Gahey was lots of rumours about him leaving. I know they sold, I think it was Anderson, sold to Fulham. So depends how they're bedding at the back. a team that's sitting there around mid-table needs to be able to shut up shop and not concede too many goals. So if they get the defensive side right, I think they'll have a really good season. So I've gone 3-0 Palace.
3-0 Palace. Leicester have just won only 2 of their Premier League games in the last 16 against London teams, Trevor. They've drawn 3, lost 11, conceding 40 goals. If Palace are scoring that number of goals and it's a goal fest down at Selhurst Park, there's definitely got to be a few goals down there.
Yeah, I think these sides are quite evenly matched. When I look at Palace on paper, I agree with Dan, and I think, well, they look like they've got a quality squad there, but they haven't shown it yet. They've not shown that they're playing as a team yet. I think that Leicester are a better side than people are giving them credit for. I think they're going to be comfortably out of the relegation zone at the end of the season, Leicester. And I think if they are, Leicester will be happy with that, I would imagine. So I think it's going to be an even game. We've got a side in Palace that I look at and think, yeah, cracking squad, but not quite firing yet. You've got a side in Leicester where I'm thinking, yeah, they're going to be all right. They're middling. They'll be all right this season. And I think there's going to be goals. I think there's going to be 4 goals, like Dan said there. Did you say 3-1, Dan, did you?
3-0.
3-0. Oh, well, I've gone for 4 goals. I've gone for 2-2. I think the Leicester will be good enough. If Palace keep misfiring, Leicester are going to put them under a bit of pressure, and it could go either way. But I've gone for a draw.
I'm the same as you. I think there'll be goals from both teams. I think Palace will just edge it. And from the stats that we read out there, I've gone for a 3-2 to Palace. We will do the season predictions as well. And when I wrote my season predictions, also, I think I put Leicester from memory as one to go down. And that was with the view that they were going to get deducted those points, but they seem to have avoided them. I'm not just, it's done. So, but I think that they'll be there or thereabouts. I don't think they'll be as safe as you think, Trevor. Fulham versus West Ham. Fulham won both Premier League meetings against West Ham last season with an aggregate score of 7-0. They have not won 3 consecutive games in the league against the Hammers since October 65-66. What's your thoughts on this one, Trevor?
Well, I said at the start of the season, didn't I? I thought that West Ham might struggle a bit this season, and I've seen nothing to change my mind yet. They're another team a bit like Palace, really. I look at them and I think they've got some players that I like to watch, but they've not been doing it, and I think they're in a bit of trouble at this season. I still do. I'm waiting for them to play better, and it's not happening. So I'm wondering if they've got the balance right in the side. If they're not struggling somewhere, I still think that if Bowen is going to go on a goal scoring run, and if he does, I think that will move him up the table, because I think that Jared Bowen is right up there, top quality. I really rate him. But I do think that Fulham are going to be good enough to beat them. I like what Fulham have got. I like Emil Smith-Rowe seems to have lifted Fulham again. A quality signing. I'm still gutted that Emil Smith-Rowe has left the Arsenal, and I wish him all the best. And I think that he's lifted Fulham, and along with Leno in goal, who was another goalkeeper. Don't forget who won Player of the Season at the Arsenal when he was there one season. He's a high-quality goalkeeper. I think that Fulham are a very decent side this year, and I think that Fulham are going to beat West Ham on Saturday, 3-1.
3-1. Talk about Bowen. Bowen has had 9 Premier League away goals since the start of last season. Only Haaland with 16 and Watkins with 10, netting more. His only goal this season has been against Palace, that we mentioned before, and that was their only win as well so far this season against Palace. What's your thoughts on this, Dan?
I'm really looking forward to this game, if I'm honest. I think this is 2 teams that have bought fantastic throughout the transfer window, if I'm honest. I think Fulham probably have settled the better of the 2. I think West Ham will bed in and take a little bit longer to bed in. But both squads that are very, very capable of pushing top 8 this season if they gel. I've gone with the Arsenal B team to beat West Ham 2-1 because that's pretty much what they are nowadays, isn't it, really? But all round, I think they're great, both great teams. I think Muniz and Fulkirk for Fulham and for West Ham are great strikers. I thought, like you said, Bowen, fantastic player, and you've got likes of Kudus there. They've bought Somerville, I think, from Leeds, another tricky winger. Paqueta can play as well. They've got some really good attacking players, which you wouldn't normally say of a West Ham team that under Moyes they've been sitting back, dropping deeper and countering. So they're very, very capable of taking the game to Fulham. But I think Fulham at home are a lot better than they are away from home. Obviously, away they drew at Ipswich, but it was unlucky with the Man United game. At home, I do expect Fulham to be picking up 3 points in quite a few games this season. Hopefully, Reece Nelson can get in and get a start ahead of Traore. Be good to see the lad get some minutes and progress. But, you've got Iwobi, you've got Smith Rowe, you've got Leno in there. It's the Arsenal sort of B team, as I said. And I think Smith Rowe is going to be a huge, huge player for them this year. I'm expecting him to get double figures.
If he can stay fit, yeah. If he can stay fit, I agree.
Yeah. It's and I hope he does for him. Really, like he's a player that's come out of our academy. I still go back to I don't think he's good enough for the Arsenal to be playing in our starting 11. But he's a player that's top quality that deserves to be starting week in, week out in a top club in the Premier League, probably just outside the Champions League.
It'd be nice to see Nelson as well get some time on that pitch. I've gone for
2-1 Fulham.
2-1 Fulham, and I've gone for an away win. I've gone 2-3, so West Ham to win 3-0.
Is that because you're mates with anyone that used to be at West Ham, Ferg?
No. I just think it's easier for me when I'm down the pub if I come along and say to everyone, I think West Ham are going to win, because they all know I'm Arsenal, so I don't want Tottenham to win. But I live in Essex, so
hello, Kevin. If you're watching, I hope you win.
Oh, you muck around, I'll set Terry Erlock on you. Listen,
there's a longer list. I've got longer lists.
Listen, we've got loads of people out there watching, haven't we, Ferg? And not many predictions coming through in the comments. So when we're talking about each game, if you want to stick your predictions in the comments column, we can chat about them quickly and we can put them on the screen and we can tell you if you've got no idea or if you're on the right line. So get your predictions up on the screen as we're talking. It's very interesting to see.
Yeah,
by the way, Terry Erlock, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I was only messing.
Yeah, don't worry. I wouldn't mess with Terry, our son, Charlie. Right, Liverpool versus Forest. Liverpool have been unbeaten in the last 25 home games against Forest, winning 20, drawing 5, and winning the last 6 in a row. The last such defeat was in 1969 under Bill Shankly when they lost 2-0. Dan, are Forest going to survive this? Well, they're not going to survive this game, I don't think. Are they going to survive the league? Who knows? What's your thoughts?
Do you know what? I've gone with a 3-0 win to Liverpool, but this is a game where I think could be a bit of a slip-up, if I'm honest. I can't make Forest out because they've got some very, very good players. They seem to always be able to just turn a corner when they need to get enough done to stay up. And a few of their players have looked dangerous. Chris Wood isn't a bad player up top, and Hudson-Odoi and Elanga are pretty dangerous.
He's scored in 4 of the last 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very useful centre forward. I don't think he'd make it in the top club, but he's a very useful centre forward. And when you've got Elanga on one side and Hudson-Odoi on the other, with Gibbs White in behind them, they're going to score goals. So their problem is always defensively, can they keep clean sheets? I think when you're coming up against a team like Liverpool, that one is in form, and I would probably say Liverpool have the best options out of any team in the Premier League in terms of a front four, in terms of squad depth, because they could probably change their front three, bring in all their subs and still have a great game. I'm just surprised with Liverpool that they've not brought in another central midfielder, and that is where I sort of think they're going to get let down a bit this year. But with their attacking talent, they've got Salah on form. Jota looks good as a centre forward. I think it looks better than Gakpo up top. So I've gone 3-0 Liverpool.
Okay. Trevor, Arne Slot is the new manager taking over from Klopp. He's won their first 3 games.
Was that Arne Slot, did you just say?
Yeah, Arne Slot.
Arne, it's not Arne.
It's A-R-N-E is Arne.
Yeah, Arne Slot. It's not Arne. Who's Arne?
Okay. Arne, I'll be back. Hasta fiesta, baby. Without conceding a single goal, no manager in the history has kept a clean sheet for the first 4 games. What's your thoughts on this game then? Dan's gone for a 3-0. What are you going for?
Well, it's a strange one because at the start of the season, I think a lot of people were wondering how are Liverpool going to go under the new manager. They're either going to hit the floor running and surprise us all, or they're going to not be very good at all and struggle to pick up points. Liverpool didn't sign anybody, did they, lads, in the close?
No, they tried to sign that midfielder at number 6, and it fell over at the last minute.
They did sign someone. Did they sign a defender? I think they did sign someone in the end for like 25 million.
Okay.
But they haven't had a big window. Certainly not what you'd expect or what they needed.
Yeah. So it was it was very interesting, and they've actually started flying, haven't they? They've started playing really well, and you mentioned Salah just now, Dan. I think Salah's had his haircut and he does look like a different player to me this season. I think he looks like he's he fell out. He apparently fell out a bit with Klopp at the end of last season, didn't he? So maybe the new manager coming in has livened him up again, because he certainly seems to be flying. I can't see anything in this game other than a Liverpool win, to be honest. Forest huff and they puff, but they don't blow many houses down, do they? I don't like their striker. I don't like Chris Wood, although he's scoring goals. I think he's not very good at all. I don't think he'll be good enough to score against Liverpool's defence. And I've gone with Dan. I've gone for a 3-0 win to Liverpool over Forest.
That's a general consensus. I've gone for 3-0 as well. I can't see anything else.
Just copying us.
But
Danny's just copying us.
Well, you're copying me. You're trying to get points because I know you're bottom of the league now.
Well, I've made a note of my points. Don't you worry about that, Sunshine. Next week I will be on the ball here.
Trevor, Man City versus Brentford. Brentford remained the last side to win away to Man City in any competition, winning 2-1 in November 2022. They're unbeaten City in 45 games in all competitions at the Etihad Stadium, winning 38, drawing 7. How do you see this game going?
Well, do you know what? I don't know about you boys, but I was desperate to see Man City get off to a dodgy start this season. They didn't have the best start last season, did they? But they've started just like they finished last season, haven't they? They look really, really good. And I'd love to see them slip up. Brentford are more than capable of doing it, but I don't think they will at the weekend. I hope I'm wrong. But City are just too good. They're just head and shoulders above, and that is why drawing against Brighton, and we're only 3 games into the season and we've dropped 2 points, and it's worrying me already, because I know that City might not drop 2 points in the first half of the season, full stop, unless we go up there and win next week, which is highly likely, I know. So I'm worried already about City. They're looking really good. They're showing no signs of weakness. And I've gone for a City win 2-0, but it could well be a lot more. Or if we get lucky and Brentford play at the top of their game, they could hang on for a draw. Who knows? It's one that's going to go City's way, but you can see a little bit of chink of light to give you hope that Brentford might be able to take something off them. But no, I've gone for 2-0 to Man City, folk.
Dan, in the past 6 meetings of these sides, City have won 4 of them. The 2 they drew, they lost, were in that that season where they'd done the double over them. And the opposite side, the City have done the double over them. Where are you on City Brentford?
Yeah, I mean, normally I would say City at home are a very, very good side, and they normally turn sides over. But Brentford do give me a little bit of hope in this game. I think West Ham, the way that they played against City, gives me a bit of hope, because in all fairness, I thought West Ham had good moments during that game against City, and a better side would have probably got a bit closer to them. Brentford are a good side, and without Tony, they actually seem to improve numbers and stats wise. They do better without him than what they do with him for the last 12 months or so. And you've got Wissa and Mbeumo up top, that very, very good players, great movement, score goals. They'll run the channels. They'll start as a 2 and they'll split and go each side, and they'll get into the gaps of where City do leave when they come forward. I'm expecting Rico Lewis that will play at right back potentially and come inside in the middle alongside Rodri. Ake's out injured, I think, from the Holland game, the international break. So it'll be Guardiola that will push over from the left. But there's talk of no Haaland. So I'll be interested to see how they line up, because obviously Alvarez was sold. Haaland may not be around for the game. I think it was like personal reasons where he's been given time away potentially because a close friend of his passed away is what we've been told. So obviously very, very valid reasons, and hope everyone's obviously condolences, etc. to him and family and friends. But if he doesn't start, who's going to be up top? Could it be a Phil Foden up top that drops in and plays a false 9? Could Grealish come in on the left, for example, maybe Doku on the right? When I look at those as a three, I don't see him being as clinical and as strong as what they are with Haaland. Bobby Perez needs to look at himself because he compared Doku to Saka this week and said that Doku was better than Saka, and he needs to go and have a strong look in the mirror because he's nowhere near as good as Saka. And I don't know. On their day, those three playing could miss chances, and if Brentford are clinical, they could get something out of the game. I know it's unlikely, which is why I've gone 3-1-T.
I thought you were going to give Brentford a chance then, mate.
I genuinely think they might have a chance, right? But let's be honest, right? A normal person, if you're a betting man, you're not going to bet on City not to win that game. But if the stars align, it wouldn't be unexpected for them to maybe nick something.
So you called out Perez there on that about Doku. Now, I'm not saying he's better than Saka or anything like that, but Doku has progressed the ball upfield 747.8 metres in the Premier League. That's more than 300 metres than any other player. The closest to him is Jean-Paul Van Heck with 457.3 metres. You know, yeah, I don't know what that means. It just means he runs a lot and carries the ball a lot. But
I mean, put Usain Bolt in that team and he probably progressed the ball a bit as well. Look, when he gets the ball at his feet, he's like a Gervinho. And I don't know, for me, he can't hit a barn door. He's not as good as I think people make him out to be. I think when he first signed, he looked really, really promising, Doku. I think he's got something about him. He worries players when he runs at them. He's a bit like a Adama Traore. Great at running with the ball, but when you want a bit of end product, a decent cross, put the ball in the net, not quite sure he's up there with the players that City have had. And to compare him to Bukayo Saka, who at such a young age is already scoring goals, already getting assists. The only thing I think you can compare the two is that if you're saying 1-on-1 and taking a player on, I think Saka has something to learn because he has been found out a little bit and he's now trying to adapt and find something different to beat a man. So things to learn. Saka's not the complete player yet, but I think to compare them and say Doku's better, I think he's lost the plot.
I disagree. I disagree that he's better, but I do think that the consistency sometimes he does. There's certain times where I do go, "Oh, Saka, please try," but you know it's rare. That's just been really petty. I'm gone 4-1 on this game. Trevor, brief finish up on that one. Go on.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you see Saka playing wide on the right, being left-footed. He's not going to beat players a lot because he's not got the right foot to go wide and beat players. But when you look at the benefits of that, the amount of times he's cut inside and either set up a chance and assisted or scored on his left foot, then that far outweighs the downside of him not being able to beat a player on the outside. It's horses for courses, and maybe they're two different players because Saka's not going to go wide and beat a lot of players on the outside. He's not going to do it while he plays on the right. His game is to come inside on his left and score goals. And he does that regularly. And if he don't score, he sets players up. So I'm with Saka all the way. I love the boy, as you all know, and I won't have a bad word said about him. As for Doku, who's Doku? Never heard of him. Right, what game are we talking about now?
On that, while you're talking about Saka and saying about he cuts inside, there's actually a stat that we are the team with the highest amount of cutbacks into the Premier League from that right-hand side, where Saka beats a man on his outside, cuts it back with his right foot, and that's where you get the likes of Trossard and Ødegaard scoring goals from the cutbacks. So for a player that is exactly as you said, strong on his left, cuts inside, he goes on his outside an awful lot and creates a lot of opportunities on his right foot.
Yeah, not as many as his left, though.
Don't know, I'd probably argue creating chances more on his right, scoring goals more on his left.
Fergus likes counting. Fergus, can you count all the chances, please, on the left and right?
Please rewatch all the games and let us know.
Yeah, well, they're right. Okay, listen, 5:30 on Saturday, we got Aston Villa versus Everton. Since returning to the Premier League in 2019, Aston Villa have remained unbeaten in all 10 of the league games against Everton, winning 7, drawing 3, keeping 7 clean sheets and conceding only 3 goals in that run. Trevor, I personally, I'll give you my score. I've gone 3-0 to Villa because I really think that Everton are in trouble and they could start the next season in a new stadium in a different league.
Yeah, I'm a bit gutted for Everton, because I like Everton. I like them to be in the top division. It's a great away day. I love going there. but God, they're poor, aren't they?
Mm.
I mean, they played their best football of the season last week, took a 2-0 lead into the last 5 minutes, still managed to get beat. And I don't care how well the opposition's playing. That's poor game management. You know, especially with football being the way it is nowadays, and there's so many opportunities to waste time or fake an injury or do whatever they do. So I thought that they played their best football of the season last week by a mile and still managed to get themselves beat. So I'm with you, Fergus. I think Everton are sadly in a lot of trouble. I hope they prove me wrong. I really hope they prove me wrong. As you know, I like Villa. I love the manager at Villa. I'm not going to dwell on that because I say it every week. I like the football they play. I don't like the goalkeeper. He's made himself look a bit of an idiot again this week, hasn't he, in the internationals? But I do think that Villa play a certain brand of football that's going to get them up into the European places this season. And for that reason, I've gone for Villa to win big. I think Everton might score because they're not shy of scoring, but I've gone for Villa to beat Everton 4-1, Ferg.
4-1. Dan, Everton have lost 4 of the 5 Premier League away games. Aston Villa is the only one they drew against, having won 3 of the previous visits to Villa Park before. That doesn't make it. What do you think? That didn't make any sense whatsoever, did it?
Take 2.
let me try. Everton have lost the last 5 Premier League away games against Aston Villa, drawing 1. Having won 3 of the previous 4 such visits against Villa at Villa Park.
So they've not won in the last 5 visits to Villa then?
But they had won 3 of the previous, yeah.
Yeah, well, you're right.
Yeah, I messed it up big time.
Yeah.
I'm dyslexic, but I'm KO9.
That's unusual for you to mess it up, folks.
Yeah.
Before
All these new viewers seeing me at my finest.
Yeah, it's not a new thing. Don't worry. If you want to go watching, we need to do a little reel of like all of your things that you've messed up over the years. You could probably do a whole hour episode.
I'm not doing a full night podcast.
Yeah, Mike will have it for the Magic Mike podathon.
Yeah, Mike,
he could have an hour kit leaving it running, couldn't he?
He had his 24-hour podathon. You could have your 24-hour balls upathon. You could easy, no problem.
You could have Fergus on his own with a bit of Norman Wisdom music, couldn't you? Really?
When I'm cleaning windows.
Right, to save you from yourself, Fergus, I think I'm not as big a fan of the Villa manager Unai that Trev is. For me, he's a bit like Manuel from 40 Towers, but I think they've got a decent team. I think they've got a team that's good enough for the sort of Europa League places. I don't think they're Champions League quality. I know they got in last year, but I think they'll struggle to repeat it. Having said that, I think Onana in midfield is a big buy, and you'll see that from Everton. It is a huge miss. They haven't really filled that gap, and I don't think they're going to fill the gap and replace him this season, if I'm honest. I think Morgan Rogers looks great for Villa. I think he's a player that if he starts to add goals to his game, is the type of player that could elevate them closer to Champions League. But I think Everton look really, really poor this year. And I think if you look at their defensive side, Ashley Young getting older and older makes more and more mistakes. Seamus Coleman as well. They struggle on that right-hand side. And that's the side where I think Morgan Rogers will move into, and I think he will exploit that side on for that game, really. I think Everton could be in trouble this year. I think the only saving grace for them is that I think the promoted teams are just a bit more sort of poorer than they are. I hope they stay up because I'd like to see the new stadium next season, but after that they can sort off, really. So I've gone 3-0 to Villa.
3-0 to Villa. Okay, I've gone 3-0 to Villa as well. So the next game that we're going to look at is 8 o'clock on Saturday. You know what? I think the Premier League must have known that my wife's away for the weekend. So basically it's going to be beer and football the whole day. So I've got a couple of chores to do in the morning. So I'm up early, did a bit of painting. Then I got Bournemouth, our winners in 5 Premier League games in meetings against Chelsea, drawing 2, losing 3, having won 3 of the previous 4 against the Blues prior to this, losing 1. I got that one right. Dan, this is to you. What's your thoughts?
First of all, before I go into the game, question for you guys. 8 p.m. kickoff on a Saturday. Like it or not?
No.
Saturday... I don't like 8 p.m. kickoffs of the weekend anyway because it's so long of a day. And especially if you do what we do, we always meet up because whether it's a the 12:30s are crap, but at 3 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, well, at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, or 5:30, we still meet up about 12ish, give or take, and we start drinking. It was an 8 o'clock kickoff. I think we'd still meet up about 12:30. And it was just like murderous.
How about you, Trev?
No, I'm not a fan of 8 o'clock kickoffs on a Saturday, Dan. I've got other things to do Saturday evening. By the way, I'm quite liking 12:30 kickoffs at the moment because they've moved Newcastle away to a 12:30 kickoff on the Saturday for us, haven't they? And I can get the early train from here and the late train home from there and actually do Newcastle in a day. So I'm very happy with 12:30 kickoffs. 8 o'clock kickoffs, no. As Fergus just said, I'm too drunk by the time it gets to kickoff time. And then I've got to try and do my long journey home if I've not booked anywhere to stay. No, I can do without 8 o'clock Saturday kickoffs. Thank you.
I remember at 8 o'clock kickoff against, it was Wolves. It was a game that was rescheduled. Do you remember that one on the Tuesday night? We ended up in Fibbers afterwards. And you had booked a hotel down in King's Cross and you woke up with a Burger King on the bed.
I've no recollection of that, Donna. Donna's watching. Donna, he's talking absolute crap there.
Yeah. Actually, no, that was Dan. That was Dan. Sorry, Trev. I get you two confused. You look so similar with the beards and everything else. So,
I think it was Mackie D's, not Burger King, but I don't remember any more than that.
But the reason I say that, right, and it's leading on to the Newcastle game, the 12:30 as well. I'm genuinely worried about the way the football's going for fans because it just seems to be Champions League, more games for fans, more cost for fans, not caring again about travel. Arsenal, Newcastle, 12:30, getting from London up to the top of the country. Early game, Southampton, Man United. All of the Man United fans going from London down to Southampton. It's just a long way for fans to be going. It's not too bad.
You were going to go to Tipperary, weren't you?
Yeah. I'm not that cliche, mate. Not that cliche.
Yeah.
It's not so bad for Chelsea and Bournemouth, but they just don't care about the fans, and it seems to be getting worse the way that clubs treat fans, Premier League treats fans, Champions Leagues, etc. And the 8 p.m s are fantastic for fans that are sitting at home. By all means, it's not my club playing Saturday, so for me to be able to watch early game 3 p.m, 5:30, and an 8 p.m game, that's fantastic in a day, But the match going fans, it's just a bit of a kick in the teeth, I think, for many fans.
Score prediction on this one?
At least Chelsea Bournemouth is not too bad. I've gone 2-2. I think Chelsea hit and miss, really, and I think they're going to come up against a Bournemouth side that's a pretty good side. I think Evan Nilsson's a good buy. 40-odd million, though, quite a lot of money. And I think when you sell players like Solanke, 65 million, you get ripped off a bit for what you spend. And I think 40 million for him, maybe they've overspent a little bit there, but. Yeah, I've gone 2-2. They're both good sides.
Trevor, Bournemouth are unbeaten in 3 games. Never gone 4 games unbeaten to start of a campaign. We gave them a point, which, well, we didn't. Kevin Kavanagh did, but we won't go into that because it'll just get wound up again. What's your score prediction on this one, please?
Yeah, I think they're going to go 4 games unbeaten at the start of the season. I see we just had some Bournemouth lads in the chat, didn't we? I don't know if they're still there, but Chelsea, I'm not sure about this season. I look at them and I think, yeah, and then the next week I look at them and I think, no, it's not working. So I don't know what Chelsea are going to do, but I think Bournemouth are an half-decent side, and I've got Bournemouth down to win this one, 1-0. I fancy a little 1-0 to Bournemouth late on a Saturday night on the South Coast.
I think it's just impossible to predict anything that Chelsea are involved in. So I thought to play safe, and for the sake of the league, I'd just go for a draw. So I've gone Desmond 2-2. We're into Sunday. We won't see.
Ferg, just before you move on, right? I just can't get it out of me. Dan, you said about the Champions League. So the first league thing that we do, these 4 away games, are in the bigger league. And after that, does it go? Is it the last 32 after that? Is it 16?
No. So you got the big league table. Top 8 go.
Spain is over here somewhere.
top 8 go straight through.
Yeah.
And then the 16 teams below that play a playoff, and the winner of the playoffs go into the final 16.
So the way I'm looking at it, then, if we're lucky enough to get to the final, we're going to have to make 8 journeys this year overseas as fans. 8 overseas.
It could be 9.
Yeah, if we finish in the
9 if we're in the playoff.
8, yeah, 9 if we're in the playoffs.
That's just that we're being robbed, aren't we? You know what I mean? They know we're going to do it though, but we are being robbed.
Yeah, the truth of it is, right, we love it and we enjoy it, and I'm not going to complain doing it, but it is difficult. It is difficult for people to get time off. It is difficult financially for a lot of people. It is difficult for people to balance it with their own lives. You know, football is a very, very demanding hobby if you want to follow them everywhere. And not a lot of people have got understanding families and people around them to help do it.
Yeah.
We're very lucky with people around us that, you know, and like with you guys that can put up with it near enough, you know, but there is always a limit. And I think it's just pushing things too much.
Yeah, I agree. You hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I'm lucky I've got a missus that doesn't mind me going at all. She's coming on 1 or 2 trips with us this season, and she'll have a great time. But for people that are just starting off on a European journey, or people that are thinking I'd like to go on these trips, it's daunting, isn't it? We could play 9 away games in Europe. 9. That's staggering. That is the European Super League by the back door, wrapped up.
It is, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Wolves versus Newcastle, the late kickoff on Sunday. We won't probably see any of it. Well, I'll tell you, you carry on talking about. I need a wee. I was going to just line this up so I can go for a wee.
Okay, then.
So it's up to you. I can hear you all the time.
Go on then.
Yeah, okay. So Wolves have lost just one of their.
He's going to leave a trail down here, isn't he? You know it's going to happen.
Wolves have lost just one of their 9 Premier League games at home to against Newcastle, and 7 of those have ended in draws. So, Trevor, since you are very vocal about Europe, you can have your thoughts on Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Newcastle United.
Sorry, Trev. I think he's gone for a poo.
Yeah, I think he has. He's number 2. Gone to the loo for a number 2.
That's what he put in the private chat and said, "Don't tell anyone." So don't tell anyone, Trev.
No, don't. He's just chatted us privately and said, "I'm busting. My bag's full. I need to go and empty my bag." So just don't laugh at him when he comes back, yeah, because he'll be putting a new bag on right now as we talk. As for what we're talking about, Wolverhampton and Newcastle, I think that they're both both 2 evenly matched sides. And I think it's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be 1-1 Wolves Newcastle. I can't talk, Dan, because I'm trying not to laugh. So you'll have to take over.
I've got 0 composure, mate. I'm gone. I'm bursting more than his bag. Oh, right. I'll try and be sensible. Right, Wolves Newcastle. Oh, he's back. How did it go, mate? That was quick.
Just tuck it back in, eh? I've got these in the whole time, you know.
Right. I'll try and talk Newcastle. Right, I'll be quick. Newcastle, I think they're actually a pretty good side. I think they're unlucky with injury suspensions, especially at the back. But I know we disagreed on that a bit earlier in the season, but I think Wolves are a poor side. I think they're going to struggle this season as well. So I've gone with an away win for Newcastle, and I've gone 2-1.
Okay, I've gone for a 2-2 on this one. But to be honest, I don't really care about that game at all because if I see it, I won't remember it because the main event is the main event. We're meeting in London.
Fergus, I've got a ticket.
So am I. The main event is the North London Derby. Demsek, I could enable these. Demsek, for the sake of audio, has said he's glad I didn't take the microphone with me. I just did the earphones. Yeah, I wouldn't be that rude. But Tottenham have lost 5 of the last 7 Premier League games against Arsenal, winning 1, drawing 1. So let's talk. What are we expecting at this game? We know that we're without Rice. We know we're without Odegaard. That's got to make it a little bit more difficult for Postecoglou to even plan how he's going to line up against us because, Arteta was vague about Odegaard's injury and saying he didn't say he would be available, wouldn't be available. I don't think he's going to be available personally. there's Zinchenko, who could play in that number 10 position because he does for the Ukraine. You've got options with Havertz. You've got options with, we haven't seen what Sterling can do, Trossard. Dan, what's your thoughts on how we're going to set up for this game? We're going to have 10 or 15 minutes on this game.
Well, look, first of all, when you take Rice and Ødegaard out of any team, it's a huge, huge miss. So I'm not going to lie and say it hasn't worried me all week, because huge, huge players. Our win percentage without Ødegaard drops from 64 to around 52. You've got Declan Rice, who covers a lot of ground, is a real battler, and you need them sort of players in these sort of games as a derby. But what I would say is we have got a much, much better squad now to be able to cope with players missing. And if you look at the team that went there a few years ago and lost, when we had a big, big sort of injury list and depleted squad, you can't compare the two to now. Like, we would have loved to have had this squad travel to there a few years ago. I think Jorginho, when he's come in, he's done a very good job. He's very, very capable of coming in and playing alongside Partey. I think it'll be a bit of a switch in formation and the way that we set up. My only worry there is that we don't have the legs in midfield. So normally Partey, I think, covers a lot of ground and gives us those legs, but he has looked very leggy at the start of the season. I've not been that impressed with his start so far. So that does worry me. I think in terms of replacing Ødegaard, the guys that we've got rid of are nowhere near his standard. So people saying about Vieira should have stayed and come in. This isn't the game for a Vieira. Now, you could drop Havertz in, but I think you lose a lot more by dropping him in there than having him up top. And what he's proven for us so far is when he's up top, he makes good runs in behind, he holds the ball up well, great with his back to goal, and he brings a lot to the team. But there's another guy that can come in and play, and that's Trossard. And for me, I'd go Partey, Jorginho with Trossard in that role. Trossard can be that creative link. He does press well. He's also a very, very good finisher. And he'd free up space on the left for someone else to come in that I think should start, and that's Raheem Sterling. So Tottenham are going to come and play their normal way, which is a very, very high line. They're going to try and press the ball, and they're going to try and be dominant. And there is going to be a lot of space in behind for the likes of Saka, Sterling, etc., if they play, to run in behind. And when you've got a player like Partey that can break the lines quick, you've got a creative player like Trossard and also Havertz that can then link up and play those two wide men in, I think we can expose it. So we're not playing against a Man City. We're playing against a Spurs side that are pretty terrible defensively compared to where they are in the league, and a team that we can massively exploit if we run our game. We just need to win that midfield battle.
Trevor, we've won our last two Premier League games away against Tottenham, but that's it in the last 17. We drew 6, lost 9. White Hart Lane is always, derby games are always difficult. Lots of draws. And there's another stat I got about the draws and Spurs. What's your thoughts on this game, and how would you like to see us line up?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I'll go back to when we last lost at Tottenham 3 seasons ago. As Dan mentioned, we were full of injuries and we had a player sent off in the first half. And I went into the ground that night thinking, it's damage limitation. But this game coming up on Sunday, I know we've got some injuries. I know we've got a player suspended, but I'm not overly worried. I'm thinking this isn't ideal. We wanted our strongest team, but I look at our squad and I think I'm not as concerned as I might have been. So I don't think Havertz can play anywhere else other than up front. I think that's his only place he can play. I think the options in midfield, if Ødegaard doesn't play and Rice doesn't play, well, we know Rice isn't playing, so that's Jorginho in for me. As for Ødegaard, we've got so many options. You can't choose. I don't know really what they're going to do, whether they drop Trossard in and move him across, whether Sterling comes in there, or whether Saka moves across there and Sterling plays out on the right. We've got options after options after options, and I wouldn't be unhappy with any of them. The only thing that I don't want to see is I don't want to see Havertz dropping back into the midfield. I want to see him play up top, especially against a Tottenham team that pushes up. I think he could cause a lot of trouble up there, could Havertz, and with our quick players running in behind him, I'm not overly concerned. And is Timber fit, boys? Is Timber fit for the game?
Yeah.
So our defence is as it should
it's
be.
Calafiori that's the doubt, I think.
Yeah. But Calafiori probably wouldn't start anyway. So we got
that's the option, isn't it, Trev? Timber to play central midfield, Calafiori to play left back. That's what a few people have been suggesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways, isn't there, Dan? I mean, Zinchenko can play in midfield. I mean, before he came to us, White played in midfield a lot. There's so many different options, but across the back we're fine, and I'm happy with that. If Party has to, I've said it all the time, and I keep saying it. Party has to stay fit all season because he's key to us. If Jorginho comes in next to Party, I've got no problem with that at all. And then just pick the forwards, pick who you want. For me, just put Havertz in the middle, and then pick the four around him or the three around him. Whoever Arteta thinks is best. I love them all. I don't think we've got a weak one there. People have been talking on social media about Nwaneri, and I can understand why, but I don't think he can come in for this game, and I don't think he will.
I think he could come on later in the game, but not the start.
No, I don't think he'll come on at all. I think we've got too many options up there, Ferg, that we can chop and change with. You know, we've got Trossard, we've got Martinelli, we've got Saka, and we've got Sterling. Now, 3 of them 4 to play with Havertz, and then I'm not unhappy with what happens. Any of them, I'm not naming them. I'm not to reiterate again. I am a bit disheartened because we're not going to put our strongest side out against Tottenham, but I'm not worried about us not being able to put our strongest side out against Tottenham. I think that we're good enough to go there. If we play to our best, if we play like the first half last year instead of the second half, then we'll win about 7-0 at Tottenham this week. We genuinely will. I'm telling you for now, if Raya hadn't made that little cock up at the start of the second half last year and suddenly got their goal 3-1, we were going to win that game 5-6, 7-0. I'm telling you for nothing. That goal they got lifted, the crowd lifted them, and they came back and we beat them 3-2. Shame.
Well, it's interesting, Trev, because last year we scored from set pieces and we're still very good at set pieces, and Tottenham still can see goals from set pieces. So that is still something that we have to factor into our team in terms of who starts. So you've got Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White, Havertz that can Partey as well. That's pretty tall. Whoever plays at left back, if it's Calafiori, better in the air. We've got players that will score from set pieces or at least create chances from set pieces. So I don't think we need to go there and necessarily push up and try and replicate what Spurs do. The biggest miss with Ødegaard is his pressing. So if we're not going to go there and press that way, we may not miss him as much as we think we will. But I think what we will potentially miss is Declan Rice.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to sit a lot deeper because we don't have Ødegaard, which is fine, which suits us because Ange Postecoglou likes to push and push, and I think that will leave holes for us to go behind. Raheem Sterling could make his debut for Arsenal in this match. He would be the first player to make a debut in the North London Derby since Rankin in December 1997. I don't recall Rankin, Trevor, do you? You will do. You're on mute, mate.
I haven't got a clue who you're talking about, Ferg, but that's not unusual for you. So I haven't got
No, it's not me. This is an Opta stat. And another thing about
you just mentioned in the course of that conversation, mate, that Arsenal could drop deep. No. We don't drop deep. If we drop deep, we're giving Tottenham space to run at us, and we're too good to drop deep. We're a team that doesn't need to drop deep. We can press without Ødegaard. We can press not as well as we can, but we can still press the game, right? And that is where we win it. If we drop deep, then we're almost submitting to Tottenham and saying we're giving you a bit of space here to come at us. That could be lethal. So no, we play a normal game. We've not got Rice, we've not got Ødegaard, but we've got plenty of players to play the Arsenal way, and that's what will beat Tottenham on Sunday, I'm sure.
I think it'll be a really open game because there was a couple of stats that I looked at, and you look at Tottenham, they're I think one of the highest teams in terms of transitions. So if we do push up, they will look to break as quick as possible. They've got players with a great amount of pace that can run in behind. But we are also the highest ranking team of stopping teams progressing their transition from their box to our box. And that's due to our midfield. And that's the only thing that does worry me a little, is because Rice and Ødegaard are huge parts of stopping teams breaking towards our final third. And the teams that come in, the players that come in need to be able to do that. And this is where I go back to what I said about having legs in midfield. And that's the only worry I have with Jorginho. And maybe a question for you two is where you think, if it's Jorginho and Partey, where they will play, whether you think they'll play a double pivot and change the system, whether you think Partey sits deep and stays in his 6 role and Jorginho goes into that 8 role, or whether you think Jorginho stays and Partey goes up and presses a bit more. Because I worry if Jorginho is the one that's pressing.
Yeah, well, I think, to be honest, I wouldn't want to see Partey playing in front of Jorginho. I like to see Partey looking at Jorginho playing just in front of him, and I like Partey just in front of the defence as well. Partey can make a yard for himself. A lot of people think that Partey's lazy or a bit laboured, but if you look at him closely, he's not at all. It's just his demeanour, his appearance. He's very clever playing that deeper role in midfield, and personally, I think that's key for us at the weekend. I really don't worry about Tottenham tonight. I'm not sitting here thinking Tottenham can beat us that way or Tottenham can beat us that way. All I'm sitting here thinking is we're all right. I look at every position on the field and I don't think they challenge us. I don't think they challenge us man for man all over the field. So it comes down to tactics maybe on the day. And you look at Postecoglou, and Postecoglou still hasn't learned from last season. You look at the Tottenham games this season, his defensive marking is still really poor. There's still set piece space to be found. And trust me, Benny White and Gabriel and Saliba will absolutely find that space if it's there to be found. And hopefully score some goals for us again like they did last season. I'm excited about the game. I want it over. Hate the North London derby. Always have done. I want the game here, watched, won, gone. But I'm not worried about this weekend at all.
I was talking to somebody and they were saying that they had heard, I think they're talking absolute rubbish, but they had heard that Postecoglou has got 2 more games. But then I recall what Dan had said about the stats when we looked at the end of the season, how Spurs' season was actually an absolute disaster. I think he's lost almost 10 games on the trot or something like that. Dan, it's some.
You'd be very, very surprised the Tottenham fans' feelings towards it in a minute. I was sitting there last weekend because there was no proper football and it was that international rubbish. And I was at a friend's leaving party, and he's got lots of friends that are Spurs fans, and we're sitting there having a chat, and I asked him about Postecoglou, and I was so surprised with actually what they responded with, that a lot of fans get on his back. They shout at him and question his decisions during the game. They feel like he's a manager that doesn't change a game, can't adapt, he's very naive. I think I agree with him in some aspects, but I was a bit surprised with their reaction, that I thought they loved him a bit more than what they were showing. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's a little bit of unrest with how things are going with him, where they expected more, they've not kicked on, and they are a bit one-dimensional and naive.
It's really interesting, Dan, you say that, because I'm sort of on the same wavelength for a slightly different reason, in that I've said it before on this show and I'll say it again. Tottenham have finished a lot of big managers' careers recently. A lot of big managers have gone to Tottenham and been made to look silly, been made to look like they're not very good managers. So who wanted to go to Tottenham? I mean, Postecoglou wasn't a big name. He'd come from Australia. He'd managed Celtic, who are like a National League side, you know, in the standard of Scottish football up there. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but we all know Scottish football isn't anywhere near the standard of the Premier League. And that was Postecoglou's CV, and Tottenham took him on. So why did Tottenham take him on? Did they really think there was something there for him to give the team, or was no one else willing to go there? My mind starts slipping towards the second. That many big managers have lost their reputation recently at Tottenham. Do people still want to go there? Do they want to risk it?
He is well thought of within football circles. You know, okay, yeah, the Australian national team and Celtic. That it's not like Man United, Real Madrid, Arsenal, but you know, I don't know. They were in such disarray afterwards, and they've got. Listen, I don't concentrate on them that much, but I as long as he stays there and they fail, I'm happy. So
well, the thing is, though, I think Demtek's comment is pretty spot on, actually, and my position on that is.
Demsek says it's a Postecoglou sounds very similar to the early Arteta days.
Yeah, like I think he's got a good philosophy, and I think the way he wants to play football is good. The problem at Spurs is never going to be the manager. They've had some great managers in the past that haven't succeeded there. Their problem is bigger foundations at that club. The club has a loser mentality. The club has a little chicken that sits on a beach ball up above their stadium is just rotten from the core, from their fan base to the way the club is run, to the way they don't back people and are just happy to sit there making money, and that's what they are. He needs someone to back him, and it's not just the players on the pitch. It's exactly as Arteta said when he came to Arsenal, that there was something more fundamentally wrong, where there was no connection with the fans and a deeper rooted foundation that had issues. And it's going to be the same at Tottenham, and I hope it stays there forever and a day. But for me, he's their biggest asset, and the people and players around him let him down for me.
I mean, in fairness to Tottenham, right? In fairness to Tottenham, we looked at the Arteta situation from the inside as Arsenal fans, didn't we? So we knew what was going on, and it was the fans on the outside that were putting the pressure on Arteta. A lot of our own fans were as well, but it seemed to be general. The newspapers thought they might have a story, and they were on him. But we only look at Postecoglou from the outside. We're not Tottenham fans. We don't want him to do well. We're not bothered about what he does. So, yeah, you're right in a way, Dan. It's opinions, and our opinions are always going to be biased in this situation. But I genuinely don't think he's a great manager. Give him time and see where he goes. But he's not learning for me the basics. And I go back to where we just started this conversation. I'm not a football manager, but I could see where their problems were last season defending set pieces. I could see it. It was obvious. And I watched their games, and they never changed every week. They didn't put in a plan B to combat that problem. So, yeah, I'm not confident that Postecoglou is going to do a good job there in the long run, and I'm very happy about that.
Listen, we've won 9 of our last 10 Premier League away games, drawing only 1, which was City last season, keeping clean sheets in 8 of those on that run. We've won each of the 5 on the road. The longest run since September 2013, where we had 8. Where do we see this going? Because another silly fact I've got up in here: Tottenham have conceded an own goal in the last 3 Premier League meetings against Arsenal. Hugo Lloris in 2023, Romero in 2023 September, and Højbjerg in 2024. No team has ever been put through in their own net by more times.
Because they've got Arsenal fans in their team, mate.
Listen,
they love us more than they hate us, and they're going to pretend that they don't. Without us, they are an irrelevant club. They are a nothing club. They've lived for years off of the Arsenal. All they do is talk about the Arsenal. People talk about us being obsessed with Spurs. We've got bigger things to worry about. They haven't. They go back to years and years ago of how they were bribed and whatever to get out of the league and all this crap, and they would go on about. They're clinging on to it. They're just a petty little team, and I love going there, because I put this in the group chat the other day. There is no greater feeling than looking across that border, seeing their fans and the hatred towards us, and then we score and they wilt and they crumble and they sit there and they look like a broken man, and it's just
you're getting all excited now because you go against.
I love it. I can see the people, and I can see their eyes, and I can remember it from last year. And this cocky guy on the barrier, 0-0.
You know what?
First goal went lower. Second goal went lower. Third goal, he sat down, didn't move, and his girlfriend, I think, moves to the other side of him to protect him. It was brilliant, and I hope he's there again.
I remember when we lost that first game at the new stadium, and we had 63 minutes of, and it was time to call it a day. I came back, went to the local pub, which is full of Spurs fans, and I walked in. Arsenal. They got so wound up that I could just walk in and be proud of my team. Listen, it might be a Postecoglou thing, but just one of Tottenham's last 49 home games have been a draw, which was Man United 2-2 in April 2023. They got the lowest percentage of games, 9 out of 101 games having a draw, and none of them been 0-0. What are we going with score predictions then?
Well, Fergus, you said to us before we came on, can you please in the group chat be sensible with your predictions? So I have gone sensible, and I haven't gone ridiculously silly, and I've kept it to 10-0 to the Arsenal.
10-0 to the Arsenal. Trevor, bearing in mind what Demsek says here about Solanke may not be fit, That's them with Richarlison, who is not great to be in a derby game. What's your prediction for the score in this game?
Well, I've been saying it all through this while we've been talking about this game, haven't I? I'm not overly worried about playing Tottenham on Sunday. I'm confident that we're going to get a win. And like Dan, and actually we didn't confer about this, but we both wrote it down. I've gone 10-0 to the Arsenal.
Must happen, mate. It's only sensible score, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
Come on, Mr. Keating. What's your rubbish prediction now? Come on.
Your good friend and my good friend are on the same wavelength. It's 2-1 to the Arsenal. I just worry that part of me was going to go 3-0 because I do think that our defence. I don't worry about our defence. I don't really worry about our forward line. And if we had Rice and Odegaard, I wouldn't be worried at all about our midfield. I think we'd smash them out of the park, and I would be with you on your 10-0 just because of Paul's gone 10-0 as well. Paul Burr, well done. That's 3 gone 10-0. I'll tell you what, somebody's got to get a bet on that 10-0, just a pound. Just a pound.
To be honest with you, Ferg,
what's the odds?
2-1 to the Arsenal. You don't deserve a ticket to the game. You're not a true supporter, are you? You're not believing in your
hang on a second. Any children listen? Close your ears. Trevor, fuck off.
You're not. You shouldn't have a ticket. 2-1.
Really hard picture of his voice then. Oh, that was a nibble, wasn't it?
I think I've got a big one on here, Dan.
What are you talking foolishness for?
Unbelievable. 2-1. Unbelievable. Here we go. Gary's on the ball.
This is the same guy that gave Spurs a win earlier when they lost. This is the same guy that's been predicting for them to win. And that's the reason I gave him them deductions. And I'll tell you what, mate, you deserve every single one of them.
Absolutely.
And you can fuck off as well, Ginger.
Now you watch your language.
It's not gone 9 o'clock. I thought it was gone 9 o'clock.
There's impressionable young children that watch this podcast. And you're not helping. Just because you've gone for a crap score, and just because you don't really support your team properly, just because you don't have a ticket to the game, it doesn't give you a right to.
Trevor, he's going red, mate. He's going to explode in a minute. We might have to back off.
he's tried to mute my mic here, Dan, but I'm back on again, so all good, eh?
Hey, listen. Sterling has scored. Sterling.
When did you get that tan? When did you get that tan on your face? You're a bit coloured up.
His bag's filling up again, mate.
Yeah. Listen, Sterling. If he does play, he scored against Spurs at White Hart Lane with Liverpool. He scored against Spurs when he played for City at Wembley, and if he could score at the new stadium, he would be one of only 3 players, Vardy and Mitrovic, to score at their 3 grounds. So that'd be funny.
Yeah.
The Demsek, honestly, when we bump into each other again, you're going to be in trouble. So I've gone 2-1. Yeah.
2-1.
Listen.
Who is this bloke?
Listen, let's look at a little bit further, a little bit more in depth into why and what we're going to do for the season, what our season predictions were. This was going to be done.
Before we go into that, Fergus, I would just, without naming names, I would just like to say a big thank you to the people who know who they are for helping me sort a ticket, and for everyone that's looked and everybody that's retweeted and everyone that's tried. It's massively appreciated. And as I said, genuinely before I come on, haven't stopped smiling, jumping around like a child. So a real genuine thank you. It is always much appreciated.
Well said. Right, let's look at this.
Deserves better than Fergus does as well.
The predictions, another one of Dan's slideshows. Dan, talk us through what this is all about.
Well, I don't know who's been watching that also watches Sky and looks at their Sky predictions, but Gary Neville and Carragher do their little prediction for the whole season. And we've got better than Carragher and Neville. We've got the 2 bickering elderly ladies of Hillsey and Fergus that are even better than the modern day Sky's version of Neville and Carragher. So thought we'd do the same, little bit of fun in some of it, but also some more general football opinions of who's looking to challenge, who are good signings, and I think Trev's favourite category, flop of the season.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Right, here we go. So the categories were champions, second to fourth, fifth, sixth, European contenders, and so on. So let's look at the first one. Champions. I think we've all agreed that Arsenal will be champions. Second to fourth, Dan, Alex, myself have gone Man City, Liverpool, Newcastle, Man City, Liverpool, Newcastle, as has Dale. And Trevor's gone with Villa to get back into the top four.
Well, interesting. The difference is, I was going to say, me and you have gone Newcastle, Alex and Dale's gone Chelsea, and then who was it you went for? Trev? Villa. I just feel like Villa's going to have a little bit more of a fall off, mate. I just don't think
have
they're
a chat. My front door's gone, lads. My front door's gone.
Bag's gone again.
That bag filled up quickly, didn't it?
In the show, he's been too much beer. It's the gas from the beer. It just bloats it, doesn't it? It just makes
I was winding him up and his head went red. He was pressuring, and he's filled his bag too quickly. He needs to sort himself out, the boy. But no, Dan, we've overrun tonight. You know, should we just shut it down, play the music, and shut it down while he's out of the room?
Yeah, he'll come back to no one here. The lights are off.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Do you generally think Villa are going to have a good season though? Because I just feel like they'll struggle. Most teams get Champions League football and do struggle to get there again.
No, I do. I really do fancy Villa this season to get a European spot, and fourth wouldn't be beyond my thoughts. When you look at who's in it for the fourth spots, people are putting Chelsea. They've been a bit up and down. People are putting
car mats. It's car mats, my wife's new car. Oh, living in a townhouse when you're fat and unfit.
The length you go to make excuses.
Those car mats were in a big bag, Fergus. You want to try using one of them? Save you keep going.
I haven't been. Oh, dear, Jesus. Right. So next we're looking at fifth place. Dan, talk us through this.
Yeah, I mean, look, as I said, I think Villa are a good side. I just didn't think they'll quite make top four. So I've gone for them to contend and be fifth. And then behind them, Man United, just because I just feel like with Man United, they just dig things out of nowhere. And the other teams that you guys have put, like for Chelsea, for example, I just don't think they're anywhere near the standard that's going to get top six. I think they'll be up and down. And for me, that's why I've gone for them further down as the biggest underachievers. Although Dale and Fergus have both gone Spurs to be in the top six. And
Alex.
Despicable.
They should be ashamed of themselves. They just
don't understand the history of the club, do they?
Think that. No, they don't deserve tickets to these derbies, Dan. Said it around time, say it again. Shouldn't be going
fifth and sixth. Fifth and sixth, we got Villa, Man United for Dan, Newcastle, Spurs for Alex, Spurs, Chelsea for me, Brighton, Man United for Trevor, and Spurs, West Ham for Dale. If we look at European contenders, why have you gone for two? You can only have one.
I mean, I'm doing a Gary Neville here where he puts extra ones in without telling people. It's a bag broke, Ferg. I've gone for, look, I think we're pretty unanimous, apart from Dale, who clearly doesn't know anything about football, about Brighton being up there. But I genuinely think Brentford can have a good season without Ivan Toney. As I said earlier, the stats without Toney in their squad, they're a good side. And it really wouldn't surprise me if they pushed at least top 8 and towards those positions.
I think you can see from there as well that Alex, myself, Trevor have all gone for Brighton to be European contenders as well. So they are looking a really, really strong side. We saw them. We should have beaten them, we know, last week or the week before last at our place. But a decent side, Trevor. Where do you see, how do you see how Dale works out that they can be sixth in European contenders, West Ham? There should be two different teams in there, shouldn't there? Seventh place, really, we're looking at.
Should there? I don't know. I lost interest in this list by the time we got to about relegation. So I don't know, but maybe he just wants to give himself a double chance of double points. Who knows?
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Maybe work with him.
Relegation battles then, Trevor. You had Spurs, Ipswich and Everton.
Why wouldn't you?
On. What's that?
Why wouldn't you have Spurs, Ipswich and Everton? Completely straight face here. I'm not even laughing. There's no joke involved. I want Spurs to get relegated. They won't get relegated. But if you ask me who I want to get relegated, it's Tottenham. So they're in my list to go down. And I hope they have a right balls up of a season and end up down there.
Dan, yeah, you've got Man City, Southampton, Ipswich, and Leicester. So you're relegating 4 with an asterisk.
I've put a little asterisk next to the City because if they get their 60 to 100 point deduction, they could be very, very close to going down. So all the rumours say that they are going to get some deductions. They'll probably end up contesting it, and yeah, who knows where it goes. But you never know, and fingers crossed it happens. But if it doesn't happen, I think it's the 3 promoted sides for me. I can't look beyond them.
Great Escape in 17th place. Listen, if somebody's put on here, look, Dan's game, Dan's rules. It definitely is because you go you've got.
In fairness to Fergus, Dan, why are you hedging your bets in every single
Everton,
category?
Wolves, Brentford, Brighton, Man City, Southampton. You put an extra player in there. It's fixed.
Listen, when you play cards, the dealer gets an extra card, right? I'm the dealer. I get an extra spot.
It looks like you've got an extra pack, not an extra card.
So you've gone for Everton or Wolves. Pick.
I'm going to go. Well, Everton, I think, are going to be the closest. I just also think Wolves are going to have a poor season.
Yeah, but we're asking who's going to escape it. So okay, so I've gone.
Maybe they'll both be in the bottom 3 and they'll both escape.
I went for Leicester because I thought Leicester would do okay, but could get dragged down due to the points deduction thing that they have avoided. Trevor, you've gone Southampton.
Yeah, simply because I think that there's 3 or 4 or 5 poor teams in the league this year. So you just got to choose one that you think is just going to escape, and it could be one from 4 or 5. So I went for Southampton, but it could well be Ipswich, could well be Everton, could well be Leicester, could be anyone, couldn't it, really, from that lot?
Biggest achievers, again, Dan's picked 2 sides, West Ham and Brentford. Just pick one, mate.
I'll go for West Ham with the 2. I just feel like West Ham have bought very, very well, and I think they'll be a team that does quite well towards the back end of the season.
Okay, I've gone for Brighton, and I think it's clear to see that Brighton are doing very, very well. And I think you're probably of a similar mind, Trevor, because you've picked the same team. I think they will probably get into that European spot.
Well,
I think
overachievers, though, Brighton for me would be achieving what they should be doing if they get around the top 7, top 6.
Listen,
Brighton, they're overachieving.
Brighton got a European spot. Was it last season? And that was the first time in their history for them to get back in there. I would have thought that for them to get in there and not get relegated in that following season was a huge achievement in its own right because of the extra pressure of European football. I think they're playing Moneyball really well. I think they're doing really, really well, and staying in the league is the main objective. Getting repeat European, that is overachieving in my view. Trevor.
Well, I wasn't listening. I was typing. What did you say?
Yes, just say yes.
Whatever. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Let's crack through the end of this because we're overrunning. Biggest underachievers: Chelsea, Man United. For everybody, if you use your theory of what you'd expect them, we're all expecting them to be that way. Top goal scorer: we have Haaland. Everyone. Top assist maker, Saka, bar Dan, who's gone from Salah. One to watch to break through. Smith Rowe, he's already broken through, but he got injured, so I don't understand that one. Dan Nanwary for everybody else. One to watch who's established. You could have put Smith Rowe in that category. Eze, Silvino, Sterling, Vardy and Sterling across the board. Signing of the season, Smith Rowe, Calafiori, Sterling, Calafiori and Sterling. Trevor, do you want to do this one?
Well, flop of the season, yeah. Dan went for Solanke. I hope he's right. Alex went for Solanke. I hope he's right. Fergus went for 2.
Well, yeah. Fergus actually went for Chiesa, but the way he spelt it when he sent it to me was the first one, and it took me about 10 minutes with him to try and figure out who the hell he was talking about.
Chiesa sounds like cheese.
So Fergus went for the biggest flop to be Chiesa. Dale went for the biggest flop to be Delit, and I went for the biggest flop to be Fergus's knob. So there you go.
I've got to tell the story on this one because I was sitting there typing all of these out on the computer and putting them all in, and I was like, West Ham, this player, that player, and I got to it, and I was like, Fergus is what? And it just come out of nowhere, and it just literally made me, I think, pee me pants a little bit like Fergus has all night.
Right, manager to watch. Hurst of the Brighton manager, Thomas Frank from Alex, Arnie Slot from me, Arnie Slot from you, Trev, and Arteta from Dale. And first manager to be sacked, Ten Hag, Dan, Dyche, Alex, Ten Hag by me, Dyche by Trev, Dyche by Dale. Interesting, just interesting. It'll be funny to see at the end of the season how they work out. We have been on way, way longer. You can tell my wife is away. I haven't been worried about
button.
I am. I'm just looking for the right one. That's why I was waffling. I'm good at that, remember? Yeah, probably going to get done. And if anybody's listening on the catch up afterwards, if that gets chopped out, it's not our fault. I'm sorry, but you should watch live.
Ferg, just before we go, on a very serious note, okay. Leanne put a post on social media today. I've read it, Leanne, and I'm just hoping you're well and hoping you're all okay. You take care.
Yeah. Just had a message through from Football Central. The Tottenham have updated their logo. It now is more, I would say, organic, more realistic. Here we go.
Well, it's not yours because it's not floppy.
You have been watching Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Listen, I've enjoyed this. I've had a laugh. I have gone red.
Look at his tan, Dan.
I'll tell you why it's gone floppy. Look, all the blood's gone to his head. Look.
Yeah, probably. Stay away from that microphone, you. Listen, there's 201 of you on Twitter right now. Do us a favor, just some of you go over to YouTube. He's going to choke. Go over to YouTube before Trevor dies and click on subscribe and follow the channel. We'd really, really appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy your Sunday even more. I probably won't remember the end of the game. I'll be with these two lads, crying if we win, crying if we lose. We're going to be drunk. We're going to have a great day, and we're going to follow the Arsenal over land and sea and Tottenham.
Thanks for listening to Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Follow us on Facebook at Guns and Yellow Ribbons or Twitter at Guns and Ribbons, and remember to rate and review us too. Up the Arsenal.